Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Circle of the Big Podcast, the top 5 of the week for week number 22. This is your host, Devious One. I will see alongside with my brothers from another mothers. I have, of course, the vampires, who just barely woke up, the Kellermans of Kellermans, and the Seidels of Murphys, the Matt's World, and that is Mr. MGC, Matt the Steamboat, and I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know.
Hold on, I gotta do it more.
Getting a closer look.
There you go, closer look.
Red eye.
Right?
Red eye devil.
That's right. And also we have, once again, our brothers joining us, and that is Mr. CKOne himself, as Chris Kennedy, joining us today. It should have been me. It should have been me.
Could have been a contender.
That's right. Could have
One
been
of
a
the worst
contender.
best gimmicks. If we're ever going to do a list of worst best gimmicks, that Dolph Ziggler, man, that could have gone so well.
Right? And also we got the man with the 12-inch pythons, the man who tells you no retribution, no Roman Reigns, get the F out, and that is the
Brother
American
Love
hero.
too. Get him out.
And Brother Love, the great American hero, Mr. Mike Lopez. Gentlemen, let's take care of business tonight as we have the top 5 picks for week 22, which is our top 5 managers of all time. So we're going to go ahead and get this started off. You know what? I'll start it off. How about that? I'll go ahead and be the first one.
Plot twist.
All right, here we go. Number 5. All right, my number 5. Top manager. And, of course, I have to include him in it, even though Mike doesn't love him, but that is I love you. Come on, I love Bruce Pritchard. I love his podcast. I mean, Bruce, you know you're losing your mind and creative. I know you're just, yes, sir. No. Put your fucking foot down and say something. But other than that, yeah, Brother Love, I love him. He's a great manager. He's a great, he was one of the greats back in the 80s era. Even when he started, like, I know you hated that. I love you. Love you. But, man, I mean, Brother Love, one of the tops. Love him. Bruce did a wonderful job, especially when he was managing The Undertaker in the beginning. So, which is awesome. Great. Which leads me to now my number 4. My number 4, you know what? I'm going to have to include her in this, as a female. And that will be Sunny. Sunny, I like Sunny as, when she was with the Body Donnas. That was like a great gimmick. I enjoyed that. Great fucking gimmick. And then even with the Smoking Guns, when as a heels faction, or even with LOD 2000. I think Sunny is underrated to, as a manager. And she did a great job during those eras. And especially with the Body Donnas gimmick, I think that's like one of my favorite ones, and the LOD 2000s. I think that one was like my top 2 with who she managed. And it did great to me. I mean, I don't know how you guys feel about her, Sunny, but who wouldn't want to have Sunny as a manager?
I
Sunny.
like that
That's
the LOD 2000 return at WrestleMania 14 when you didn't know who was going to be in that Battle Royale and that music hit, and then she came out. She had like the flame top bustier, and LOD was back in true Road Warrior form with the spikes and everything matched, and they won that Battle Royale. That was an impact moment for sure. That was like one of those, surprise entries to a Battle Royale. And then to add Sunny to that mix was just literal fire. It was pretty awesome for 1998.
Oh, yeah, definitely. That was like fucking awesome during that year. I enjoyed it. And I was like, she's back. Thank God.
Yeah, definitely. Back in a big way. Back with the team that, I mean, God rest both of those poor men right now, because we lost them both as of right now. But yeah, that was a pretty devastatingly awesome moment.
Definitely. So yeah, Sunny was my number 4. So now my number 3. My number 3 will have to be Paul Bearer. Oh yeah. I have to put him on it. I have to. I mean, Paul Bearer. Come on. How he managed Taker, he managed Kane, Mankind. I loved it. Oh man! And then when you were a kid, I mean, you were just like very eerie because who's that guy? Oh, here comes a dead man. Like when I was a kid, I mean, yeah, that's how I was. Like, oh shit, this guy is. Who is it? Is he dead? Is he cold? Back in the days, I remember when when we were all as a child, like, we were talking about pro wrestling. Is he really dead? Yeah, he's really dead. But he's like, man, it was Paul Bearer was one of the greats, great manager. Perks Pringle was one of the greatest. He did a wonderful job for Undertaker's career. He did a great job also for Kane's career. I loved the whole storyline. Brother, versus brother. Him being Kane's dad. Oh yeah, Mr. Ron. Oh yes, I did. I'm Mr. Ron will take his mama. I remember that.
What was the line? That it was on GTV. I remember.
Yeah.
Paul was talking to Jerry Lawler in the locker room on candid camera.
Yeah.
And he said something like, "Oh, I had Undertaker's mom, one leg in Memphis, one leg in Texas." And I was like, "I'm 12. That's disgusting." That was that's a classic Paul Bearer moment. Was when you found out he was Kane's dad in that very X-rated Vince pushing the Attitude Era line.
Oh yes, hell yeah, I love it.
Such good shit.
That's good shit right there. That's good shit.
Who just did Vince McMahon? Who was that?
Me.
That was sick, dude. That was creepy, dude. That scared me.
That's good shit. That's good shit.
Such good shit.
Papa Vinny always. Now it gives me out to my number two. My number two. Yeah, you know what? I am gonna go with him number two. Yeah, man, what's up, baby? Yeah, come on, do it. Jimmy Hart, man. You can't go wrong with Jimmy Hart.
Mouth of the South.
The mouth of the South, Jimmy Hart. Man, he did it for list of fucking pro wrestlers. He did it for the Nasty Boys. Who else? Dino Bravo. He did it for her. I could go on. I mean, I could go for Honky Tonk Man. What am I? Yeah, I mean, it's so many pro wrestlers that he managed for his career, and Jimmy Hart, he could pull it off, man. He gets to you just that little bit just because his voice. Man, yeah, baby, oh, I just want to kill him. That's how there was just times this is want to kill him sometimes. But
even as a face, I felt that same way.
Yeah, even as a face, I don't know. He was never fit for me as a face. Even in the WCW, like when he was, the face was, with Hogan. I mean, I did not like him being the face.
He's like the narrator and the host for the DVDs of the World Wrestling All-Stars, that short-lived wrestling league. And it's like, we had the greatest wrestling lead ever, man. We had Hulk Hogan was there and all these people, but it didn't last long, let me tell you.
Yeah.
But thanks for buying this DVD.
He was good in the Legend. He was in the Legend House, right? He was good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that.
That show was shit. Holy, yeah.
Oh, yeah. That's a
different topic, though. But yeah, Jimmy Hart definitely deserves to be on this list.
Oh, yeah, definitely. He is. He's my number two. And my number one, and that is going to be, he's my favorite because I listen to his podcast a lot.
Oh, I know.
Yeah.
If I'm wrong, I'm sorry, but you say it. I
want a double cheeseburger, double mayo, double mustard, you stupid motherfucker. That's right, Jim Cornette. Jim Cornette
experience.
Everyone knows it's corny.
Jim Cornette
is a gusher in a white suit.
One of the top of all time for my era. There's one person I did not include in here, which I will include him in an honorable mentions though. But
who said Ronnie Garvin went up like the Challenger?
The fuck? But Cornette, man, he pulled it off. With the Midnight Express, he pulled it off. And Jesus, man. Even with Owen Hart, a British Bulldog at the time, with Yokozuna at the time.
Yokozuna!
Yes, he was the manager for Yokozuna alongside with Fuji. So, I mean, Jim Cornette, you want to talk about another guy from Mouth from the South. Kim Cornette had a fucking mouth. And he was, man, if he was able to manage people right now, and even FTR asked him, come on, man, you got to do it one time for us. I mean, but unfortunately, he can't go to fucking AEW. He can't go to MLW. He can't go to ROH. He can't go to WWE. He's banned everywhere. He's not banned. He banned himself.
Every bridge.
He burned every bridges in every organization.
But I love every second of it, though. The path of destruction he's led in the past couple of years, man.
Oh, yeah.
Whether or not I disagree with him on things,
Thank you. Bye.
It's so hard to disagree when he makes such good points about shit I don't agree with. I'm like, I don't agree with this point. Fuck, he makes a good one.
He does. I mean, there's a lot of things that he says that I can't agree with him, but then when he explains why, I'm like, okay, now I understand why you said it. Now it makes.
Doesn't change my mind, but I don't disagree. You know, it's weird.
Yeah, I know it's weird. I mean, as much as I have a disagreements a lot with how he bashes modern pro wrestling era. I know we all know he lives in that back in the old school days era, and like, come on, it's no longer the 70s or 80s. We're now in the
the territories.
It ain't the territory days no more. It's done. All that is done. But they're coming back little by little. NWA's coming back. I mean, little by little, you're seeing territories coming and working together, and we're seeing that a lot.
Yeah, especially with NWA and AEW.
Definitely. And then with AAA too, AAA is also involved in that, but we haven't seen much lately. So we'll wait later on in the future once all this shit is over. But yes, definitely Jim Cornette is my top one of all time because the professional wrestlers that he managed. Obviously the Midnight Express, Rock and Roll Express feud era was the greatest. Love it. I enjoyed every single piece of one of that. Now, my two honorable mentions. Now, one of them, which I've dearly, and I do apologize if I offended any viewers, but he should have been my number one. But reason why he's number one, because I did not grow with him until later on when he was already doing more commentating and managing. And that is the Weasel himself, Bobby the Brain Heenan.
Woo! Oh, fuck.
So there you go. So, Bobby Heenan was another one, the greatest one right there. Oh, my God, I loved how he kissed Ric Flair's ass. Oh, yeah, the greatest. He's a champion, the greatest. And, with Andre the Giant as well, managed perfect. I mean, Bobby Heenan was a phenomenal manager, even when he managed Haku, when he was one of the King of the Ring, like Harley Race. So he managed a lot of the great legends. And Heenan himself, I think a lot of people, and I will say, and correct me if I'm wrong, but this is my opinion. I feel obviously everybody got their knowledge from Heenan himself, because he was one of the greatest minds of being a manager, especially at that era. And he's one of the, I would say, Mount Rushmore, I would put him definitely. Like, I don't see anybody else. I'll put Jimmy Hart, yes, of course, Mount Rushmore, and Cornette and Paul Bearer. That's probably the only four Mount Rushmores I'll put up there, when it comes to managing. But we're doing top five, so this is different. And now my other honorable mention, I will put. Yeah, you know what? Yeah, I'll put China. I'll put China on this, even though she didn't talk much. But man, her presence was already just scary. Like, oh shit, all right, okay, watch out with this girl. What's she doing? Like when she was first, barely introduced, everybody was like, who is this female? Who is this? She's all quiet and standing there, and whenever something happening, and she had the tits to go ahead and stand up to the guys and beat the shit out of them or anything.
Intercontinental champion,
and she was a former Intercontinental champion herself. So, man, God rest her soul. But man, China was another
eighth wonder of the world.
Yes, yep. So she was one of the top, also as manager. So, China, it is my other second honorable mention. All right. So let's go ahead and point to. Yes, you, Mr. Steamboat. I'm pointing at you.
So surprisingly enough, I'm going to actually zoom through this quite quickly. There might not be too much explanation, but I think I've got a pretty solid away team for this. So I'm going to kick it off. Number 5, Mr. Fuji.
All right.
We go with Mr. Fuji. He put in a lot of work. I was actually listening to I remember hearing a story like he was tearing tickets at a movie theater, and Vince saw he was in a bad shape, and Vince just under the table was like, okay, just give him $12,000, just don't tell anybody, and I thought that was pretty cool. And Mr. Fuji, he in with New Japan and Eric Bischoff, he was doing commentary with Eric Bischoff for the Collision in Korea show, and he was pretty much Eric Bischoff's like main translator, co-commentary guy. So he's done a lot of good work. Mr. Fuji, you know, like he really sells it. He does the bringing the salt in the face and the powder in the face. I love that.
He's one of the worst backstage pranksters of all time. And I mean worst, but I mean most vicious backstage pranksters of all time too, right?
Yeah.
I think that's what I heard. Yeah.
Yeah, like he has like, I think might have been on a Cornette podcast, or maybe they're just like, you know, various people shoot on backstage pranks, and a lot of people kept bringing up Mr. Fuji would do some shit where you're like, that's almost not funny, but it's pretty funny because it wasn't me. I can't cite examples right now. You might have to look it up, but I think that's true.
So number 4 and number 3 are kind of tied together because they were like rivals for so many years in the 1980s. So number 4 is Paul Ellering.
Okay.
Manager of the Road Warriors. And number 3 is Jim Cornette. So I
of course,
I kind of have to have these two. You know, it's the yin and yang. You know, you have your baby face manager and your heel manager, kind of like you need one for the other. You know, more or less. You know, who bled a gusher in the white suit? Who said Ronnie Garvin went up like the Challenger? And Paul Ellering, I was surprised. Like, I didn't watch NXT in the time that he was involved in it. So I was surprised, like, he was part of that whole, like, FTR, the Revival at the time, the Revival versus DIY storyline a little bit.
He was also
he was with AOP.
AOP.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then Paul Ellering being a part of NXT, you know, and then all the stuff back in the day that he did with the Road Warriors, though, he was their guy, you know, Demolition, you know, was just so continuing on. Number 2, I think the funny thing is that Cornette said this about Paul Heyman. Excuse my language, but he said Jim Cornette said this about Paul Heyman. Paul Heyman's my number 2, by the way. Is that Paul Heyman? You're a dumb fuck, but there's so many other dumb fucks around here that you move up the ladder just by default. You know. So, well, I just put him above you, so.
They got a lot of respect for each other, though. Like,
yeah, they do.
Cornette has a lot of respect for Heyman because, you know,
as bookers and
as Booker, yeah, exactly, as Booker, as storytelling, and I mean, I forgot about Heyman too, but yeah, Paul Heyman is a great mind and he's a fucking mad scientist, and I think Cornette's the story about how Heyman, you know, tried to book Cornette to go to the ECW show at the time, and he's like, what do you want? I'll give you anything. I guess Cornette just wanted an apology from Heyman, and from someone else. I forgot who, but if you listen to his podcast, he explains the story, what happened exactly. And then she showed up. He did it for free. So that's why you know that Cornette was not a bad person either. So Cornette buried a hatchet with Heyman and did the show for him for free. It was a time when Jerry Lawler was feuding with ECW, and he joined Jerry Lawler and managing Sabu and RVD. So it was during that time, that feud, that happened.
Interesting.
So, yeah.
That's pretty cool. And I gotta say that, like, I think I was watching another interview where they said Paul Heyman's like the Jim Cornette of the North, and they said Jim Cornette's the Paul Heyman of the South.
I agree 100%.
Interchangeable.
I agree.
My number 1, let's do this. Bobby the Brain Heenan.
There you go. Yeah, all right.
You know what, Gorilla Monsoon? You know, it was just like it was him on commentary during like the NWO era and like towards like the end of WCW. You know, we listen to Bobby the Brain Heenan. You know, and I actually want to just like the thing is like a lot of things are paired together because I'm gonna go to my number 1. My number 1 honorable mention because I didn't study enough of him. Like, it's kind of the same reason why Bobby wasn't your number 1 is the reason why this guy's my number 1 honorable mention, because he's kind of tied in with Bobby the Brain Heenan. Mm-hmm. And he kind of predates him and inspires just about every other manager on this list. Classy Freddie Blassie.
Yep. That's cool.
So,
yep. I forgot about Classy.
And I think there's a lot of I think Martin Landau in Ready to Rumble was basically like cosplaying Classy Freddie Blassie. Like he's got the cane and the tracksuit and the old man and just like, you know, Classy Freddie Blassie is like Iron Sheik and I think Hulk Hogan, Nikolai Volkov, like all these different people, you know. I'll just since I'm not talking about too many guys, I'll mention both Gato and Jesse Ventura as like my number, kind of like tied for number 2. Like Jesse was actually supposed to be they were testing out Jesse Ventura as Brock Lesnar's manager at the beginning.
Oh yeah, I heard. Yep, I think there's a film about that.
Totally forgot about that. That is absolutely, yeah, I remember that.
And I thought it looked really cool. Like I think just because like politically I'm a big fan of Jesse Ventura, I would have just cheered for Brock and Jesse, like, you know, regardless of if they're babyface or heel, if that was like the team, like constantly, like no matter what was going on, I'd just always be cheering for them. You know, if I saw that going on, it's like I'm a Jesse Ventura guy. You know, like CM Punk and Jesse Ventura. Like if I saw that going on, and Randy Orton and like all Paul Heyman's people. Now it's Roman Reigns. You know, so. And then Gato, you know, Okada,
course,
you know, and now Jay White, you know.
I love it. I love it.
Elevating people, you know. Gato's been around a minute, and you know, yeah, I love him as a booker too. A lot of these guys are both great managers and great bookers.
Mm-hmm.
So you know, we're continuing on.
I definitely agree. With Ventura, and I forgot all about it until you mentioned it, and I'm like, you know, it's funny about Ventura because I think Cornette even said it himself that Ventura wanted to start a union, having for all the pro wrestlers so they got better medical care and a lot of other personal finances, and just make sure everybody was on the same page. And the only one that wasn't was Hogan, and that's where
he ratted.
He ratted out Ventura. I mean Ventura to Vince. He's like, what? You know, like, and then ended up, I guess, letting Ventura go because of that.
Fired him like on the spot. He's like, yeah. And then Ventura was like, Hogan, I thought we were friends. He's like, I like money. You are trying to, you know, change that.
Yeah. Imagine if that would have happened though. Like if it would have been like a union, I think we would have been talking differently about different superstars. I don't think we'd be talking about the same, you know, legends. I think everything would have been so different if that would have happened. Having a union in professional wrestling, which it can still happen. I mean, it can still happen right now in this modern.
I'm hoping for it.
I mean, Cody's trying to go for that. I think Cody is like one of the main pioneers is trying to go for that, you know, for the union for every professional wrestler in every territory. So
that's why he says, you know, AEW is the Ellis Island of wrestling is what he said. And that kind of stuck with me, you know. This is freedom, you know. This is the better place to work. So it's like, well, I wouldn't want to be anywhere else just because of how they treat their workers, you know. So.
Yeah, agreed 100%. All righty, let's move it on to the hero of all heroes, Mr. Mike Lopez.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen. Well, gentlemen. So,
oh no.
Let's see. Number 5. It's not sure you can have a great relationship with your manager, but it's a totally different thing if you marry your manager. So my number 5 is Stephanie McMahon.
Oh, I didn't know where you're going with that one. That's spicy. I like that.
Yeah, that's a lot of, you know, what's her name? Terry. That could have been Terry Runnels too.
Yeah, or Miss Elizabeth.
Yeah.
But you know, yeah, for me, Stephanie, because I guess more of a nostalgic pick, really. And you know, she did a lot to help out Triple H's career, right? And I mean, that could be taken into different places, but in the ring, and in the storyline that happened, I definitely think that it made Triple H. It kind of gave him a little bit more of that to main heel status, you know. And yeah, so I always remember her like slapping her mom and There's this video going around that kind of is a compilation of her slapping different people around, and it goes on for like almost 5 minutes. You know, it's pretty funny. You should check it out. So that's number 5. Number 4, I have Paul Bearer.
Mm-hmm.
You know, what hasn't been said about Paul Bearer? You know, legendary managerial work he did with The Undertaker and Kane. And yeah, I mean, he's a Hall of Famer, and yeah, I'm glad to put him on my list. Number 3, I can't do that imitation like Ivan does it, but it's Jimmy Hart.
Yeah, baby, come on, baby, you can do it, Rick, great American hero, you can do it, man. You're a great 12-inch punch, baby, you can do it, man.
The mouth of the South. Yeah, I mean, so Jimmy Hart. If I were to pick my own manager,
It'll be
it would
me.
probably. There you go.
It'll be me.
The mouth of Southern California.
There you go.
Of South Central.
There you go.
But yeah, you know, definitely Jimmy Hart is in my list. Number 2, I have Bobby the Brain Heenan. He's very, from what and I didn't grow up in that era where he was like in WWF, and I didn't really watch WCW, so I've had to catch up on his and his work throughout my time watching wrestling, and I've seen just how quickly he's able to come up with things to say, and just the quick wit, you know, and that's something that a lot of managers need, you know. So he had it in bunches, and he was entertaining. He was funny. So
go. I recommend, if you want to catch up on Prime Heenan, go watch the very first episode of Raw.
Okay, yeah, I actually have not seen that. So
yeah, watch the very first episode of Raw. Is just golden prime Bobby Heenan. It is him at his brainiest. And trust me, you'll be like, what is happening? Yeah, it's good stuff.
And for number 1, there it is. Paul Heyman. I mean, you know, as a manager, you have to highlight your client or your person, and a lot of times what works with one client probably doesn't work with another. So you have to be versatile. And I feel that Paul Heyman is able to do that, whether it's with someone that doesn't really talk like Brock, or with someone that talks a lot like CM Punk, or, you know, or someone in the middle like Roman Reigns. He's able to make it work, and he's able to, you know, take them up to another level, I feel. So number 1, Paul Heyman. And so my honorable mentions are a little I kind of thought of them as being oddballs in the list, but kind of hearing other people's, I think it'll be okay. My first one being Eric Bischoff with the NWO.
Yeah.
I mean, being a teenager and seeing, you know, like this guy and with all these wrestlers behind him and motorcycles and stuff like that, leather jackets, it was pretty cool to see, you know. And he always kind of had that heel persona, and I always saw him with the NWO and being really cool and stuff. So he definitely honorable mention number 1. And number 2 is kind of a out of nowhere thing, is Ric Flair. When he was managing Triple H. I know that, you know, Triple H kind of, when he was given the World Heavyweight title, you know, he was already champion. He didn't necessarily need the manager. He was well on his way. But, you know, having Ric Flair in there, and then that becoming Evolution, it was just something that was meant for success, I feel. And yeah, so Ric Flair, honorable mention.
I agree 100%, because Ric Flair did kind of filled in the hole for Triple H in his platform as a singles competitor, and it did make sense, even though he did not need a manager when it comes to the mic, but in the ring he did need it, and because it was, come on, his idol, you know, his idol was Ric Flair, was one of them, and Harley Race, you know, at the time. So why not have your idol manage you?
Yeah.
And fuck it, I mean, do the same style, obviously, in your different style in the ring, but you needed like Ric Flair to help you out, to get you away from losing the championship. So I mean, hell yeah, it fit very perfectly. Even though he did not need a Ric Flair to speak for him, but shit, in the ring, hell yeah, it really meshed. And then by them creating Evolution was even beautiful, which you can watch in the archives, gentlemen. We talk about that in the top 5 greatest top factions. So you can see that on the archives. So, all right. You know, I still got to learn how to do Paul Heyman's voice. Ladies and I can't even do it.
That was hate.
That
That
was-
wasn't bad.
I am
Oh,
Paul
ladies and
Heyman.
gentlemen, my name is Paul Heyman. I can't do it. He's
A little bit lower, but the same.
Yeah,
same,
it's
same
hard.
tone.
It's Paul Heyman. I can't do it.
You
But
gotta have like his accent too.
but I'm not a New Yorker, man. I'm not from Brooklyn, all right? I'm not.
Yeah, just practice that spoiler line, and you'll probably get it pretty quick.
Yeah. But also, another one before we jump on. My apologies. I did enjoy the Heenan's Bobby Ray Heenan's Hall of Fame speech. He cracked me up the whole fucking time when they inducted him in the Hall of Fame. I think that was like one of my favorites too. So you should watch that on the network. Bobby Heenan Hall of Fame speech was great. All right, best for last. We got Mr. CKOne. You're up next.
So I tried to make my list a combination of who I was entertained by and also who deserved to be on the list. And I didn't want to be a contrarian and just pick randos because I knew you guys weren't going to have them. So it's a lot of names we've already heard before, just to pay my respects. At number 5, though, is not on anybody's list. And I genuinely think that she was underrated in her participation in getting her man the win. And at number 5, I've got Maurice.
Oh, all right.
She was willing to do whatever it took to help out her actual husband with The Miz in creative ways, whether it was just standing in the way of a suicide dive and blocking the man from hitting The Miz, or, whatever tactic she can pull behind the ref's back. Endless creativity with actually participating in the match without getting caught. And I think that goes underappreciated in the management world right now. Zelina Vega does a little bit of that, but she hasn't been around long enough to be on this list for me. But I mean, she's also no longer manager. Spoiler alert.
Yeah, I know. Unfortunately,
Maurice was the shit. The way she found ways to get the Miz a win was super awesome. And I told myself in the last podcast I wouldn't say super awesome, and I just did it.
Awesome!
Awesome! Okay, it's relevant now. Perfect. My number 4, I didn't like him because you were not supposed to like him. He was annoying. He was scary. He was creepy. I was 12. He looked like a fat Gomez Adams, and that was Paul Bearer. Woo! That voice haunts me to this day. Taker! Like, that was
Kane, your brother's still alive, Kane. Your brother's still alive.
Yeah, he did exactly what he was supposed to do. Scare the shit out of me and definitely make me hate him. But iconic, the face of The Undertaker's career from like 93 till his passing and whatever it was. Not that long ago, like within the past 5 to 6 years. So one of the longest managerial careers with not the biggest repertoire of people he represented. He only had those 3.
Oh, no, wait, no. He had, I forgot one more. Vader.
Undertaker, Kane, Mankind.
And Vader.
I
forgot about Vader.
That was quick. Yeah, exactly.
He actually had Eli Drake in Hollywood, NWA Hollywood. Like,
I am talking from his WWF.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because for sure, a lot of people had long careers, but as Paul Bearer in that Gomez Adams gimmick,
yeah, people
were supposed to hate him. No one was a fan of his because they liked him. They liked him because of how good he was at being hated.
Oh, then WrestleMania 20. Oh, yeah! Oh, like WrestleMania 20, I was like, oh, shit, you hear his voice with the joints coming out? Oh, yeah. Love it.
Number 4, I think having him as your advocate is almost equal to having the World Championship title because it is inevitable that if you're a Heyman guy, you're at the top of the food chain in the business.
Heyman hustle.
Yeah. What he lacked in clientele, he made up with quality. In just WWF alone, he had CM Punk, Cesaro, Lesnar, and Reigns. And 3 out of 4 of those have had long-standing title reigns. You have to earn Heyman as a manager. You don't just get tossed him to see if the gimmick works. He works perfectly for every one of those characters. I think, like Matt said, if you talk a lot, he'll talk with you. If you don't talk at all, he's a perfect mouthpiece. Gets actual heat. He knows how to talk back to the audience. He knows how to talk shit to the audience. And he almost always can outsmart the audience. And I love that about him. Number 3 set a huge precedent for the women's division after her managerial duties were over. But she was a wall of a person, and she's already showed up tonight, and that is China. You didn't want to mess with her. WrestleMania 14, was it? No, it was like the Raw leading up to WrestleMania 14. She was handcuffed to the turnpost, and she knocked Sergeant Slaughter the fuck out with a cold right hand. No other woman could even believably do that to old Chin, you know?
Right.
She was a force to be reckoned with. When she showed up, you were like, oh, I kind of don't want to interfere in this DX match. Her career after that, you know, obviously we talked about her being the IC champ. I think she was in a Rumble. I think she legitimately beat X-Pac once, maybe. Yeah, but as DX, as just a cold, silent assassin that just stood there, super intimidating. And I was a fan of hers up until, I mean, forever, basically, yeah, until, you know, until forever. At number 1, 2, 3, am I number 3? 1, 2, 3. I'm on number 2. I can't count. Maurice? Paul, yeah, number 2. Yeah.
Oh, you're number 1 now.
No, number 1. Oh, I can't. Yeah, I can't. I'm a terrible ref. I can only count to 3. I have him as my number 1 out of pure respect. I wasn't a fan of his as a heel or a face. I couldn't stand him. I don't know if I was supposed to not stand him. But this is merely just a pure respectful decision at number 1, and it is the Mouth of the South, Jimmy Hart.
That's right, baby. Yeah, baby. You know, come on, baby. You can do it, man. It's number 1, man.
WWE, brother.
Yeah, the thing I respect the most about him is not relevant to his managerial skills, but he wrote most of the music back in the day for Superstars.
Yeah.
When I found that out, I was like, okay, I respect that dude a whole lot more. But super annoying ringside, whether he was representing a good guy or a bad guy. That might have been the point. If it was, I didn't get it. But I don't ignore the fact that he is the Mouth of the South. He was the face of a lot of those guys, and he got a lot of those guys over, whether it was as a face or a heel. So that is just my number 1, just my pure respectful decision right there. My 2 runners-up, though, they are who I would put on the top 5 list if the list was just people I loved and were entertained by the most, but didn't affect the business as much as anyone else on my list goes. My first runner-up is probably one of my favorite managers of all time, if not my favorite manager of all time. He likes to call it right down the middle, Daddy-O! And I got myself Mr. Bill Alfonso!
Oh, shit.
Woo!
Bill Alfonso, man.
Bill Alfonso was the shit. I loved everything about him during that Taz, RVD, Sabu era.
Yeah.
Throwing chairs to RVD, holding the chair for the Van Terminator, the whistle, talking shit to Don Marie the entire time. The guy just had endless energy, represented by 3 favorite superstars in ECW during the heyday. And I could not, if Bill Alfonso was anywhere near the ring, I was marking out. I was like, fuck, who's coming out? It's going to be Sabu, it's going to be Taz, it's going to be RVD. He was gold no matter what. And in that same vein, my second runner-up, he may not be Joey Styles, but his manhood stretches for miles. Joel, the quintessential stud muffin, Gertner.
Oh, my God.
Nobody had the mic skills like him in ECW at the time.
No, you're right.
The dude wrote his own limericks. He was hated at first, but once that spiel got over with the Philadelphia crowd, he could not be denied. People hung on his every word. They couldn't wait to hear what dirty porn pickup line scripted poem he came out with every single night with the Dudley Boys. You could probably Google thousands of catchphrases this guy had, and he was funny every single time. These are my 2 favorites of all time, but I wouldn't put them on a affect the business Mount Rushmore. But these 2 guys were gold. 97 to like 2001, just perfect for me.
Definitely, especially during that ECW era. I think was like one of my favorites of all time, especially them 2. Alfonso and Sedmuff, yeah, man, you can't go wrong with them. They pulled it off.
Era ECW with the Impact players, and yeah, that was the golden age, man. I can still go back and watch every single pay-per-view from like 96 to 99 and just be like, I can call every move, every run-in, every angle, and love every single one of it like it's the first time I'm watching it.
That's awesome. That's really, really awesome. I love it. And I enjoyed everyone's picks. Everybody had badass picks. You guys did a phenomenal job on it. Now we're going to put you guys to a test for next week's, which is the next top 5 will be our top 5 greatest high flyers of all time. top 5 greatest high flyers of all time. So
Interesting.
that's gonna be the one that is gonna be all right. Who's your favorite high flyer of all time from the past and present? Obviously, you know the high flying era changed a lot. Obviously, the aerodynamics, everything else, acrobatics, of course, it developed. But I mean, you got to go back to the to the old school times. You know, who kind of like was people were actually, oh my God, you know, that's one of the greatest high flyers of all time. But yes, stay tuned for that next Sunday, ladies and gentlemen. That's been for Mr. Week 23 for that. So, once again, ladies and gentlemen, we do appreciate you guys for tuning in for the top 5. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel down below. We're available here every Friday and every Sunday, which every Friday is our weekly episodes, and Sunday is our top 5 of the week. So hopefully Mr. CKOne will join us for the next top 5 next week. So once again, ladies and gentlemen, this is Devious One IBC, alongside with Mr. The Matt's World of Matt's everywhere, and I don't know what he's doing with that. And he's the killer man, ladies and gentlemen. He's the vampire.
I was going to add one more thing you could call me Kenny Omega's boyfriend. If you
oh my
just
God.
to make Kota Ibushi jealous if I can.
No, you're Tanahashi's boyfriend. How about that? There you go. And also, of course, we got our brother CKOne, that's Chris Kennedy, and also we have the hero of all heroes. He's your hero as well as our hero, and that is the 12 man, the man with 12 inch python, the great American hero, Mike Lopez. Telling you guys, buenas noches, and we'll see you next week.